Hey everyone, it's Andy Blanks again with another teacher prep video from our Threads Bible Study curriculum. This teacher prep video is for lesson 42. We're going to stop and take a look at the New Testament church. Right after Pentecost, this is that beautiful description of the church right there in Acts 2. And we're going to use this to talk about the idea of the church as a whole. And we're going to see what behaviors and attitudes we can draw from, again, this description of that initial gathering of people that were meeting in Jerusalem after Pentecost, and really kind of form really the first understanding of a New Testament church that again, in its behavior, not in its precise form, but in its function, serves as a pattern even for our churches today. And so you have this great description that Luke writes of the believers meeting every day and devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching and to prayer. They embraced fellowship with one another. They shared everything they had with one another. It's said that even amazingly, they even enjoyed favor with other people in the community. This was before some of the wide-scale persecution came, and we'll deal with that in a few weeks. We'll talk about the martyrdom of Stephen in the next couple of weeks, and the conversion of Paul. But so they enjoyed the favor of all people. There were amazing miracles and signs and wonders being done. And then the important thing where we want to kind of focus on in terms of our kind of transitioning into the gospel thread and into application is the idea that people were being added to their numbers. You know, people were coming into the church. So we want to kind of seize on that idea of that they were faithful to the message of Christ and they were living it out, and people were coming into their numbers. I'm going to do that by talking about a passage in 1 Corinthians where Paul talks about almost kind of how we're welcome to that fellowship of God and how we come to faith. And it's a beautiful passage where Paul talks about, you know, the wisdom of the world and the foolishness of God. And he says that, you know, the message of the cross is folly to those who are dying. And that's just kind of Paul's way of saying to those who have rejected Christ. But he says to us, you know, the message of the cross is life, it's wisdom. Paul talks about you know, the gospel being a stumbling block to the world, but that it's life and it's salvation to those who hear the words and believe. And so as we talk about the gospel thread, the idea is, you know, it's by that proclamation of faith through the word of God, through the story of the cross, which is the gospel, we hear it, we accept it, and we're saved. And I guess the converse of that is those who reject it aren't saved. And so the idea is that we want your students, the application here, is we really want your students to think about their role, kind of placed into the context of the church, because that's really what we're talking about, their role in sharing the gospel and leading others to faith, but also others into the church, the idea of growing the church. You know, the initial picture of this church in Jerusalem is that they are growing and growing through people interacting with the gospel message and coming into their fellowship. So it's just the idea of your students placed in the context of the church. You know, what's their role? How do they see their role of growing the church here on this earth, growing God's kingdom? And so I think it's a cool lesson for them. I hope it is one that really finds relevance in their life, and that they can see that their role is to be communicators of this wonderful, you know, wise message, packed full of wisdom and meaning message of the cross and the gospel. So hope your lesson goes great. We're praying for you, thinking about you. If we can help you, please let us know. And I look forward to seeing you on our next teacher prep video. Take care.